Hey everybody, welcome back to Earthmote. I'm Randall. Today I have another product review for you, and today we are talking monsters, specifically the Monster Overhaul, a practical bestiary by Skirples. This is probably one of the most talked about or hyped OSR products to come out in 2023. It has gained a lot of popular following. According to Skirples himself, it is a massive RPG bestiary designed for at-the-table utility. Monsters are presented alongside useful tools and tables to help the game master run them in any sort of impromptu scenario without slowing down the session. So we'll see if it lives up to that billing, and we'll go ahead and take a look at what is inside. Without further ado, let's go ahead and look at the Monster Overhaul. All right, here we can see the cover of the Monster Overhaul. It has a nice front image to it, kind of a interesting little dragon flying over maybe kind of an Aztec style ruin. It has a nice kind of soft matte cover finish to it, a little bit different than maybe your standard glossy kind of book cover. On the back, we have a little bit of information, again, kind of talking about the uses of it. The book contains 200 monsters, some maps, a bunch of art, and random tables and indexes and all that much more. Coins and Scrolls is Skirples' famous blog. The book construction, it is sewn smith binding. I think you can maybe see it there. Looks like it is well constructed, should last for a long time. It's a very solid feeling book. Perhaps one of my only gripes about the book is that it is actually A4 size, I believe, rather than US letter size, which is 11 inches by 8.5 inches. In my personal RPG shelf, it doesn't fit. I have a kind of a tight fitting shelf and it's too tall. That's unique to my situation. And it's probably good for the rest of you because it's bigger. So that means more information per page. And certainly if you're European, you probably won't notice the difference, A4 being the standard over there. But if you're from the Americas, you might notice that it's slightly larger. Here I have my Swords and Wizardry book, which is more of the US standard. And as you can see, it is taller and it is slightly narrower if I flip it over. It's lined up there, so you can see the US standard is a little bit wider. Then we have the credits, so written by Skirples, edited by Die Sugars, hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. And then lots of different artwork and advice and additional thanks to a lot of different contributors. So very great overall. Got the table of contents, so it starts off with an introduction on how to use the book. And then the meat of the book, of course, is all of the monsters. They're broken out by different chapters. So here's the People chapter, Dungeon chapter, Dragon chapter, Thinking Beasts, Heraldic Beasts, Primeval, Elemental, Divine, Dark and Malign, A Wizard Did It, Spring, Summer, Fall, Winter, Hostile Forests, Hot Plains, Mysterious Mountains, Stormy Seas, Strange Water, Science Fiction. And then the book wraps up with some indices. So overall, it's about 280 pages of either monsters or supporting information for those monsters. So that's great. Like I said, it's a pretty thick book. Here we have the table of contents. So all of those chapters broken out and the individual monsters covered under each chapter. What's nice about this is it's actually 20 chapters. So you can roll a D20 and randomly select a chapter and roll a D10 and randomly get a beast because there's 10 beasts per chapter. So that is really great. He has an introduction section here, talks about reading it first, the purpose of the book and using it at the table. And then talks about monster statistics, different effects. So he references things like immobilized or stunned in the book. This is what he means by those different terms that he uses in the monster stat blocks. So going back to the monster statistics section for one moment, one thing to note about the Monster Overhaul is that Armor class is referenced in generic terms, such as they have no armor, they have leather, as chain, as plate, or as plate and shield. He does this to sort of make the bestiary more generic so it can be applicable to all different types of OSR systems. So you as the GM will have to kind of know those values for your specific system to get the most out of it. One thing that he does do nice is he includes a table here. So you could reference this one if you'd rather. If you use ascending AC, here's values here. And likewise, you can use the older descending versions as well. So one thing to note there, could be a little bit disappointing for some, but I understand why he did it for making it more generic and system neutral as a bestiary. Because the Monster Overhaul is such a big book, I can't flip through all of it, but I will go ahead and flip through the dungeon chapter so you can get a sense of what a single chapter looks like. And then I'll highlight some other, common monsters or ones that I thought were kind of cool. So starting with the dungeon chapter here, each one has a nice kind of full page chapter break. And then again, you have your random tables, random encounter tables for the dungeon chapter. Starts with giant spiders, so you can see there, hit die, the different features, what's the spider doing, and then you get some different spider variants too. So if you don't want to use the simple generic one, you can maybe make a venomous one or a trapdoor spider that lurks underground. First attack automatically knocks the target prone even on a miss. Hirelings must test morale. So interesting. It adds a little bit more variety to the monsters, which is great. Not all of them have variants, but a lot of them do. So here we have goblins. I think there's quite a few extra pages on goblins here, but different variants. So are they warty or are they cunning? Different special abilities they might have. What are these goblins doing? Gives some great context for why the players might have encountered them. Here we have 1d100 goblin. We have goblin elite weapons, goblin super weapons, the big kaboom, goblin covered in bombs, carries a torch, kill or extinguish before it gets close, 30-foot radius, 66 damage, save for half, smoke, shrapnel, and screaming. That sounds like a bad time. Here's a goblin war engine. Maybe they've been able to construct this crazy monstrosity and you have to stop it. Then we go to liches. So the Lich is interesting, and most magic casters are interesting in this system. He doesn't reference specific spells usually. He turns the spellcaster's spells into more spell-like abilities. So the Lich can cast Burn, which fires 3 bolts of magic, or it can drain life. Kind of genericizes it. I think it's great. It helps you as the GM not need to stop, open up another book, read a spell description, to see what happens to the players. So it's nice to have it all in one stat block. I think it's cool. Then you got your tables. So you got names, their appearance, inconvenient lair, got this kind of metal-esque picture of this lich. The artwork is really great in this book. Lots of different artists contributed, so you get some different styles, but it's really nice touch. Got the lich's goals. A lot of monsters you can eat, or at least your players can attempt to eat it. Most of them, usually it's a pretty bad idea, but sometimes it works out for them. So what if they eat a lich? What's going to happen to them? Information about phylacteries. So how do the phylacteries, how can they be used? What is the form of the phylactery? Where is it located? The only way to destroy the phylactery is, and then different information there. So that's great. If you want to develop a lich type character, a lot of great information here. We got mimics. Everyone loves a mimic. What's its true form? What's its disguise? What's its disguise flaw? That's great. So your players can suss it out before it eats them. Always nice to give the players different clues like that to maybe prevent their untimely demise. We got monstrous vermin. So what is the monstrous vermin? We can make it a rat or a tick or centipedes. Can encounter mummies in a dungeon. So different information on them there. mummy names, features, myconoids. So you got your fungus people hanging out in the dungeon. Oozes, common staple of the dungeon. Different types of ooze that you can have. What's their ability? What's the ooze doing? You can try to eat the ooze if you want. Again, probably not a good idea, but players can do it. What's embedded in the ooze? Maybe give the ooze a twist, such as above a ceiling hatch with a dangling pull ring. Yank to unlock. Players love pulling on things. Sometimes they get ooze in the face. That's a tough break. Orcs. Everyone likes an orc. Got your standard hit die. Their attacks, what they use, of course. And then reasons these orcs must die. Orc names. Cultural position. What are the orcs doing? Clan names, features, different abilities that those clans might have, skin tones for them. Talks a little bit about orcs and some issues around, are orcs always evil, or are they, can they be more nuanced in your world? Just give some different takes and ideas on that. So really nicely handled by Skirples there, in my opinion, regardless of what your stance is on orcs. And lastly, we got the skeleton. Everyone loves the skeleton, so can have different commands. It's got different trinkets on it. What's the source of these skeletons? You got a D100 skeletons to give them a little bit of different description if you want, or maybe change up your skeleton a bit. So maybe you got an ogre skeleton this time, or a giant fish skeleton. Just a lot of different flavor there to really kind of help add some more context and interest to your dungeons. Okay, so just to highlight a few of the monsters that I think are pretty neat in the book, starting off with the generic elemental. It's quite a strong monster in the OSR systems, 12 hit die. Gives different generic abilities that it can use in combat. You can roll for its different element if you want. Then it has what damage it takes and its special attack there. You can give it different colors based on the type of the elemental. Then we have the elemental spirit, which is a smaller elemental. So 3 hit die rather than 12, but still gives you that kind of elemental touch to it. And you can use the different canonical names. So anything from a Nereid in the water to a Sylph in the air. So relying on those historical monsters that show up in kind of mythology, which is great. And then going from those, you go to the far spectrum and you have the elemental tyrant. So this is a really massive creature, 100 HP or 22 hit die, very nasty to take on, but it often has, massive wealth. So a treasury of elemental tyrant contains lots of money, lots of magic items, and other items of fabulous power. And of course, there's, why would you seek this tyrant in the first place? Apocalyptic prophecy must be averted, or rumors of near divine treasure hoard. And then unique treasures of the elemental tyrant. So the song blade, the thunderclap sword, or the bag of glacier seeds. So, it's up to you as the GM to figure out what that mechanically does, but it kind of gives you some nice prompts on these different fantastical elemental themed treasures. So I thought that was very cool. In the divine section, I really like the information on the generic cosmology. So if you want to build out your own cosmology, there are random tables for that. So the sky is what, the wandering stars are what, the sun, the world, supported by, but actually is, after we die, we are, or if we were bad, we are. Additionally, the dead must. So really kind of, you can roll to build out your world cosmology if you want, all on one page. It's very, very cool. Another massive monster featured is Beast of Creation. So again, Skirples genericizes a lot of monsters into something like Beast of Creation. But when you look into it, it can be the Tarrasque, or it can be Charybdis, or the Behemoth. So really kind of uses stat block, but lets you get more specifics and details to it, which I think is a really nice touch. Last monster I wanted to highlight is the Eye Tyrant. Of course, the generic beholder of D&D. Who doesn't love a beholder? So gives you kind of the different information on that. You can see where its different eye stalks would be shooting. That's very cool. Little diagram. It's got its anti-magic cone. Different variants of a eye tyrant. The classic eye rays. You got variant eye rays. You got strange eye rays. So you can give it all sorts of different interesting things. So like, what would be a strange one? Coins to crabs. All coins in a 10-foot cube become harmless but irritating crabs. Quite annoying for adventurers, but very interesting. And again, adds kind of that whimsy or humor to it. You got a section on tyrannical madness. So beholders classically are a paranoid and kind of megalomaniac type being. So some information there. And then he gives you a whole half page on ravings. If you want to sound off as your eye tyrant, you can use some of this or part of it. It's great. It's great flavor. So at the end of the book, we have the indices or indexes. First one starts off just by giving kind of height references to some of your standard monsters. Another different index of monsters that you can use if you want to look for those belonging to the Emperor or maybe fabled ones. So again, you can roll on these tables if you'd like. HDNA. This is, I believe, tables that talk about, so you got the hit die here, and where the different monsters or creatures fall in sort of this chart. So you can see you have, people here. Wizards can be anywhere from a 6-hit die to a 2-hit die. So it's a different way to look at it and kind of reference them. So I guess if you were thinking about, maybe I want a monstrous humanoid, what would be a good option for whatever type of challenge level I'm trying to go for my dungeon? Goblin maybe too weak, troll maybe too strong, so maybe I want to go with an ogre or something like that. So kind of a nice reference. Certainly doesn't hurt to have it. And then we got another index of monster utility. So if you want detached advice, who would you go to? If you want principled advice, cynical advice, lots of great ways to frame the monsters that he has in this book. It's really nice. Generic mega dungeon. So he kind of makes this cross section of a mega dungeon and different sections or areas you might have. So you might have a bandit camp and a cult stronghold on the first level. And that, the cult stronghold has access to the lower catacombs or the elemental enclave, where the camp could go to the meandering cave. And then lastly, the alphabetical index of all monsters has their page number and even gives you the variant options. So like Alsaid is a dryad, so it says sea dryad. So that's very nice. If you're like, oh, I want a Nereid, but I forget what the Nereid falls under, you can look that up and see that it is elemental and go from there. And then at the end, just some more random tables on the end paper. Again, generic upgrades, popular monsters. So that is the monster overhaul. What are my final thoughts on it? Well, I think it is a great bestiary. Skirples build it as this product that you can use and run at the table, giving a lot of utility to provide context on encounters you're making up on the fly. I think it absolutely lives up to that. It was a very highly hyped product in 2023, and I think deservedly so. I did back it on the Kickstarter when it happened, when he was crowdfunding it earlier this year. I'm very happy I did so. This book does not have a lot of new wild and wacky monsters in it. It really focuses on the classics that we've seen throughout the years, but it adds a new twist by adding in a ton of utility around those monsters, so you can really bring them to life, flesh them out at the table, whether you're doing it on the fly or you're preparing for your games beforehand. I've used it. I love it. I think it's a great book. Now, looking at the price aspect of it, it is on the expensive side. The hardcover comes with the PDF. That is $60. And if you just want the PDF, that is $30. $30 is quite expensive for a PDF. But as I showed you, it is a very big book. It's over 360 pages. It's very well documented, well organized. You're going to get a lot of use out of it, whether you're using the PDF or the hardcover format. I like the hardcover because I can flip through it and look at it while I'm doing my game prep or running at the table, but the PDF is awesome too. So you can't go wrong with either. I will leave links in the description down below so you can find it if you would like to purchase it for yourself. And if you enjoyed this review, please give it a like and consider subscribing to the channel. I do more OSR product reviews like this, and I also do videos about running games in the OSR and game mastering for old school role-playing systems. So thanks for watching. This is Earthmote. I will see you in the next one.